So, a few days late, and you guys might know why. Because Rooster Teeth is getting ridiculous with copyright blocking videos with death battle animation. Now yes, the animation was made by people working under the banner of Rooster Teeth, but with the exception of Metaverse Carolina, every single death battle uses characters that they don't rightfully own. Most of them even use official resources, like sprites or models, Goro using his Deception model and Machamp using his Pokken model for this example. Even battles where they do use characters they own, like Weiss vs Mitsuru and Yang vs Tifa, also use copyrighted models, like using Tifa's model from Dissidia, or using Mitsuru's model from Persona. It's bullshit. Why do they have a copyright on an animation that uses copyrighted characters or copyrighted models from games that they do not own? I wouldn't mind if it was just a claim, because that doesn't affect me, but a block? Back the fuck in, Rooster Teeth, or at least tell you it's really YouTube's fault. But if I make fun of my YouTube overlord, I'm going to get taken off the platform, so... Anyway, because of this, I'm going to have to completely change my Goro vs Machamp review section, but first, here is the original video's Cable vs Booster Gold prediction, which is the namesake of the video. Cable vs Booster Gold. I bet you're all glad it's another Marvel vs DC fight. And instead of doing something that's, like, actually requested by the fans, it's Cable vs Booster Gold. Now, to be fair, this is infinitely better than Cable vs Future Trunks, because that's just stupid, but... okay. I guess... I don't know, at least they don't have this exact same set of powers. I mean, they have very similar... some of their powers are similar, but, like... you know, Cable's got a metal arm, and Booster's got... tickle lasers. I don't know, it's just... if you're gonna give us another Marvel vs. DC fight, maybe do one that's interesting. Like, I like they did Ultron vs. Sigma instead of Ultron vs. Brainiac, but if we're being fair, that would have been infinitely more interesting because there's, like, a lot you could talk about, and there's actually a real discussion there beyond just the numbers. But, alright, let's just talk about this. So, Cable, apparently at his peak, he can destroy stars, and he broke Silver Surfer's board and matched Apocalypse, but I don't know if this can be used. I like Cable, but I don't know if this is how powerful he is currently. Like, apparently he still lost that fight against Silver Surfer, but is he at that planet the Solar System range? I'm aware that's a massive lowball for how powerful Silver Surfer is, but I'm being generous, fuck off. Booster Gold is apparently taking hits from the likes of Doomsday and Cyborg Superman anyway, so I don't know how much it'll help. But, like, Booster Gold isn't that physically strong, is he? Like, I think I've seen him, like, lift airplanes, throw mammoth and break metal and concrete with his attacks. I'm not sure if this Booster Gold could take on, I think people call this Omega Cable. I don't know, I don't care about this matchup. Both can go back in time, so I don't really know if anyone of them can do it better than the other. Like, how can you go back in time better than the other? As I said, the funny Green Lantern word. I know you're watching this, Biff. Booster Gold is more consistently at that higher level durability, and let me be real with you here. If they're using Cable as he normally is, not this Omega Cable shit, and Cable can't go back, or I guess in this case forward in time and kill the young Booster Gold, because Booster Gold could probably also go fast forwarding to time to when Cable was a child and do the same thing. I'm pretty sure Booster Gold wins on durability alone. Like, if Booster Gold can take hits from these characters on the regular, Doomsday, Zoom, Sinestro, Supernova, Cyborg Superman, Trigon, Mongol's Ship, and a Manhunter, and like, this is very consistent durability. I don't think you can just call every single one of these feats outliers. That puts Booster Gold's durability at a really high level. I don't think his attack is, but, like, occasionally, Booster can match... occasionally, Cable can match Silver Surfer during a very specific run of his comic life that is not indicative of what he can normally do. And, yeah, normal Cable has taken hits from Hulk and Red Hulk, but if we're being honest here, these characters have more inconsistent strength than these characters because they have reasons. Like, there's no reason Doomsday or Trigon would have inconsistent power. They just do because of bad writing. Hulk and Red Hulk have inconsistent power because their power is actually dependent on various factors and is not always the same throughout their runs. And even then, Hulk and Ulysses Claw were able to knock him out, and a blast from Ultron also incapacitated him. Is this fair? I don't care. I don't know if Cable has higher feats or not. From what I've seen, Booster takes it. But what do I know? I've only got a few hours a day to even think about working on videos, and I have to get this out on a schedule, because if I don't, there are going to be even more comments on videos about people asking when the prediction's coming out, instead of comments about the actual videos themselves. Guys, I stay up till 4 AM to get videos done for you. Could you please just maybe be a little more generous?
Actually, that's not fair, because you are our pet and you don't have any things to do. You have to do things at our pace, and your personal life doesn't matter, because your only role is to be our entertainment during quarantine, because you're not a person, you're just a media outlet. Rah!
Okay. Now we can get onto the Goro vs Machamp review. Now, because this video is apparently illegal to include, I'm going to have to fill it with still images, Ruby review style. Goro vs Machamp was okay, flat 7 out of 10. Things I liked: it was funny, the seismic toss was great until the end, the Hokuto Hyakure to Ken from Machamp is awesome, and the dialogue is spot on. Things I don't like: Goro's model is easily the worst one they've used yet, looking like it was made on a $2 budget from a PS2 game, which it pretty much was. It doesn't really feel like Goro vs Machamp, and what I mean is, the whole thing with these characters is their forearms. That's why they're fighting. Here's every single time they use their forearms to their advantage: Goro holding Machamp while punching him, Machamp's combination cross chop and rock smash, Machamp's machine gun blow, which itself only counts because prior to this he had an arm ripped off. My problem is that you can replace these models with Zangief and Hagar for a remake of that original death battle, and those 3 scenes are the only ones you need to change to adapt for them having 2 less arms. Of course, the Goro Fire Breath you'd have to change, but that's not relating to the arms. Either one of them could do something else there. You have 2 characters with 4 arms, however they both fight like 2-armed mooks. It really, really bothers me, but it only seems to bother me. It's like Natsu vs Ace, but only 3 parts of it involve them using fire. It's like Goku vs Superman, but only 3 scenes have them in the air. It's like Godzilla vs Gamera, but only 3 scenes involve them using ranged attacks. It's stupid. I don't like it. Goro and Machamp are fighting because they have 4 arms. Natsu vs Ace are fighting because they have fire. It is a fair comparison to bring up. These characters have almost nothing in common with each other. I like the episode. It's probably my favorite of the season so far. Honestly, it and Leo vs Red Ranger Jason have a huge lead on the rest of the season right now, but that doesn't mean I think it's an absolutely perfect episode as 90% of my other friends think it is. Well, they admit it has flaws, which is why they're my friends, but they all consider it god tier best death battle level. Now here's the part of my original video where I went on a tirade about some of Death Battle's matchup choices. I mean, I already don't like matchups where the characters have pretty much the same ability list, because at that point, it's a boring slog of the same thing back and forth. Like, Gray vs Esdeath only really gets interesting at the end because they start to use abilities that the other one can't replicate. Nothing is stopping Gray from just making a giant ice ball or a big ice sculpture, and nothing's stopping Esdeath from just doing ice make things. It makes them both look like idiots for not replicating each other. Especially Gray, because imitating ice magic is something he does on the regular. Natsu vs Ace is literally just the same shit back and forth. Fire this, fire that. And what bothers me is that these matchups, they don't have any reason to exist. Why is it Natsu versus Ace, or Gray versus Esdeath, or Goro versus Machamp? You could substitute any of these with any random characters who happen to use fire, ice, or have 4 arms. It would not change anything if it was Sanji versus the Human Torch, Sub-Zero versus Frozone, 4 Arms versus Rip-Roar, because none of these characters have connections beyond what they can do. None of these matchups are about who the characters are. Like, All Might vs Might Guy is low-key a pretty decent matchup, because you can't just replace the characters with anyone else. Because this is a matchup of masters who break their bodies and cripple themselves with immense physical strength, who push their limits beyond what is safe, and put their faith in a student that they've trained to the best of their ability to be even better than themselves. Students who also have pretty much the exact same powers as their masters. There are other characters who you could say could replace All Might or Might Guy, but it's not one you can just mindlessly replace the characters with. You can't just do All Might versus the Hulk, because they both smash things, and end up with the same sort of thematic, like, logic behind it. There's less connections there. I like Galactus versus Unicron, not because they're planet eaters, but because they're both beyond that. They are 2 cosmically powerful deities with abilities far beyond what most individuals of the universe can comprehend, whose existence and power relies on just what they are inherently. They are individuals who can warp reality, space, and matter itself to their will, and they don't as much lose as they get delayed for a short span of time. I like Destroyer vs Zyrus, because these entities are the antithesis of their enemies, beings that directly counter the primary kaiju of their worlds. Born to kill the other, they both grew into things that threaten the world itself. They went beyond just weapons to kill 2 specific creatures, and became global monsters that could bring ruin to the entire planet. You can't just substitute Destroyer or Iris with anything else. You can do Destroyer versus Legion because they have multiple forms and are bug-like, but those connections, they're the same with Mothra versus Legion. You could do Destroyer versus Hedorah. There's nothing character-based to connect Destroyer and Legion, but there's a lot that connects Destroyer and Iris. I'm in the mindset that matchups, unless they're being done as a result of long-time pop culture rivalry, or for the sake of comedy, should be based on who the combatants are, and not what the combatants are. Why do Beerus versus Arceus? Because they're animals and deities? You could replace either of them with Mothra, Megalon, Arslan, any Egyptian god in mythology, Cthulhu, the Void Dragon, the Winged Dragon of Ras, Life of the Sky Dragon, Daisuzian, Amaterasu, Zool. I could go on. That was that, and now here's the point where I talked about Goro and Sindel scaling and why it pisses me off. The research pissed me off a little. Goro scales to Cabal speed. Bro, Cabal and Goro have never even met. And even then, Goro is not even close to a top tier in Mortal Kombat. In fact, the reboot Goro is amongst the lowest tier of characters. Because not only is he roughly equal to Kintaro, who got beaten by Stryker, but the two combined lost to Cyber Sub-Zero, who also lost to Cabal. Goro literally only has 1 victory to his belt, against Kotal Ketz. Okay, maybe he also beat Kenshi, but Kenshi is also a total jobber. He fought Reiko, but the winner's unknown. He fought Suhao, and lost to Suhao. He throws Scorpion out of a helicopter with himself, but that just leaves him unable to fight, as Johnny Cage solos both Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And, you know, all these characters crashed, but only Johnny Cage got back up. He gets taken out by Shinnok, which, okay, that's fair. He loses to Takeda, which, alright, that's also fair. He fights Revan and Cabal, and ends up getting injured, and doesn't do much. He tries to get in Scorpion's way and fails, and then he vanishes from MKX and MK11. Good job, Kenshi. You end up looking like a total loser. Goro, who's below Kotal Khan, who is way below Mortal Kombat 2 Shao Kahn, who himself is below Mortal Kombat 2 Kitana. Goro in Mortal Kombat X is weaker than Kitana was decades in the past. How? This makes no sense! Bad writing. And are those people who argue that Sindel is universal because sometimes she's portrayed as a threat to Raiden, and Raiden scales to Shao Kahn and the Elder Gods for reasons. In your saying that, you'd have to be saying that Jax and Nightwolf are equal to Raiden, because they beat Sindel. And to the guys who say that Goro scales to Kotal Khan, who scales to Shao Kahn, ignoring that Goro and Kotal Khan both jobbed, and to say they scale is like saying Dan Hibiki scales to Ryu and Ken because he has fought them in the past, even though he also jobbed. If you want to say that Goro is universal via scaling to Shao Kahn, and ignoring that a past version of Shao Kahn, who is slightly weaker than this one, was able to beat the guy that shitstomped Goro, if you say that, you're implying this. Cyber Sub-Zero is like 2 times universal, because he beat 2 Shokans who are often portrayed as roughly equal. And then furthermore, Cabal is universal, because he beat Cyber Sub-Zero. Therefore, Cassie Cage is universal for beating Cabal, Sonya is universal for beating past Cabal. Keep in mind, this is Mortal Kombat 2 era Cabal, but if you're going to say that Mortal Kombat 2 era Shao Kahn is equal to Mortal Kombat 3 era Shao Kahn, then Mortal Kombat 2 era Cabal is equal to Mortal Kombat 3 era Cabal. Then you'll have to say, Jax is also universal, because he also beat Cabal, and also matched Kintaro. But then Sindel is easily like 10 times stronger than even Shao Kahn, because she took out all these characters, some of which are universal, as we just said. If you're going to go with the universal scaling, if you want to say Goro is universal, that would mean Sindel is bordering on multiversal, and thus Sindel is even stronger than the Elder Gods and the One Being. And no, if you want to think that logic all makes sense and say that she beats freaking Black Canary, if you're going to use a highball like that, you have to highball Black Canary, and Black Canary highball took down Amazo and broke Gigantus' finger, and those characters could easily be highballed to multiversal as well. So, and there, hopefully you can watch this fucking one.